Alright guys, TacticalRab here, and today I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Welcome back to VALORANT News. Two massive quarterfinals concluded last night on the VALORANT VCT lock-in tournament. Two more coming up today. Lots of reaction though to the way that North America is playing right now. NRG getting a victory last night in close fashion against Giants, but ShahZaM from G2 believes that actually Sentinels and 100 Thieves are clearly the best teams in North America, and they of course are still very much yet to play, and also reckons Evil Geniuses are significantly worse, at least in practice, than many of the tier 2 competition. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I'd greatly appreciate it. First of all, update on the Rostermania stuff. Mame has been spotted here with Governor in a lobby because we know that Turtle Troop, they're making some changes. Harmful is gone, Okeanos is gone. There's rumours, who are they going to bring in to replace? Do they have an actual player, well, set of players in mind, or are they going to do some trials? Because as it stands right now, a lot of the players are obviously in Sao Paulo, the tier 1 players, therefore the tier 2 scene is kind of on shutdown and has been suspended for a little bit while the lock-in tournament goes on. I wonder if there was also an argument to say that maybe a team like the Guard or some other team could actually have gone to Brazil and boot camped there. Like, could you imagine? That would have been obviously a big commitment of resources, but it would have been an interesting idea because the Guard have been saying the last few days that, oh yeah, the practice right now in tier 2 is terrible because all the good teams are over there in Sao Paulo. So these guys are regressing. Like, imagine if G2 or the Guard said, you know what, we're going to fly to Sao Paulo. We're not even playing the tourney. We're going to fly there though and, you know, land and set up shop in a facility, and we're going to practice against all the best teams in the world and get some phenomenal practice for 3 weeks while we're out there. Might be a good idea, even if they're not playing the tournament. But regardless, tier 2 is looking like this. Governor and Mame spotted together. There was also this kind of screenshot here that came up where Tig was spotted with Wedded up against the Guard, and Guard actually allowed 5-12 in this one. So yeah, maybe Tig is going to be a man joining that team as well, with Wedded and co on the Turtle Troop team, potentially, hopefully signing for an organization as well at some point. So those are the two names that are currently being associated around the Turtle Troop camp as it stands. Also an update on Redgar. I'm not exactly sure what's going on here because Liquid have been, of course, arriving as all the other teams in Group Omega have to Sao Paulo for their matches in a few days' time. But Redgar says here, I saw a lot of you guys wondering, where is Redgar? Because I don't believe he's been in the images and stuff like this. People are wondering where he is. And he says, on the next day you will see. But right now, in what possibility do you believe most? So, yeah, difficult to say. Whether Redgar's just baiting us all here and he is going to be there with no problem, or whether Liquid are actually going to be without one of their most important players for whatever reason, I guess we'll see. I guess there's some reasons that you might be able to think of, but as he says, I guess on the next day you'll see. So maybe he's going to announce today whether he's there, whether he's not there, or whatever the case is. But potentially a big deal for how that group might play out if Liquid don't have their kind of, well, ideal roster, given that pretty much most of the European stacked teams are over there in Group Omega. Now, obviously, you know, Zell says right here, America's better than Pacific, and they come up with better than EMEA because that is how things stay at the moment. Let's talk about this unbelievable series then. FNS and co on NRG up against, well, the Giants guys. So they decided to play Lotus map 1. Interesting call, of course. Brand new map, of course, into the rotation. I thought it was a bit of a surprise that NRG went for it, given that you don't really know how good Giants are on this map. It was crazy, right, though, because there were some unbelievable clutches here. FNS had a 1v4, including the final couple of kills here to help them to get towards overtime. Some then clutched a ridiculous 1v2 to actually get them to overtime, and then they lost the overtime anyway. So there was some heroics from the NRG camp to even get them to this point. He got stunned up here and still got the 2-piece SOM to take it to overtime, but Giants in the end won both rounds and won the overtime regardless, 14-12. So big map 1 from Giants, but it's not exactly a shock of NRG in this course starting slow in the series, and then they just completely destroyed Giants for the rest of the series. Haven was 13-1, was not even close really from start to finish, and then it went to Icebox, and despite Giants winning the first pistol, NRG quickly dominated the defensive side. In the end, it got a bit sketchy for NRG, and Giants are making a bit of a comeback, but 13-7 on the Icebox, and it was SOM on that yellow crate again. It was just absolutely impossible to kill. So yeah, NRG, they played how I expected them to for map 2 and 3. Lotus is always going to be a bit of a toss-up first map of the series regardless, but SOM was making plays. This I thought was crazy, right? This is on runitback.gg. The SOM's kills on Icebox defense, so you can see where he's having the most of his impact, and over towards this yellow crate is where the vast majority of it is coming from, and it's not exactly a massive surprise, right? This is of course the heat map effectively for that series for SOM. And as he goes on to say, again, I'm not done yet, one game at a time. So again, SOM proving people wrong. That was the question after the first series he played against Koi. Was that a one-off for SOM? Could he keep up this level? But yeah, W streamer, this guy's been out of control, and Marv actually didn't surprisingly make any tweets about it last night. So I do wonder what's going on in his head after, you know, obviously he's been replaced by ShahZaM, but by his own decision to not play, and now ShahZaM is playing incredibly well. So it's a very interesting state of affairs. So 2-1 over Giants Gaming. This honestly was written in the stars just because, as I mentioned yesterday, NRG winning this series set them up for a likely contest against Loud, which is what we're going to have over the coming days, which of course is the OpTic core up against the Loud core, which is, I mean, they absolutely cannot avoid each other no matter what tournament they play. Game 1 Lotus 12-14 went to overtime in the end. Fatinho actually was the dominant force. I forgot to even mention his name, but he had like 20 kills at the half here. Pretty absurd. 13-1 though, straight back at them on the Haven. Crashies deserves big mention as well. He's been so good so far this tournament for NRG, and if he keeps up the level and they win the thing, he's probably going to be the MVP based on current performances. And then 13-7 in the end to knock Giant out of the tournament. But I wanted to mention here, because NRG, of course, some say have been the best team in scrims. Insane team, super good, crazy high level. ShahZaM, though, disagrees. He reckons that, okay, they're very good, they try some interesting compositions in scrims, but his opinion is that 100 Thieves and Sentinels are the two best teams in North America. There also was another clip where he talked about Evil Geniuses, which I believe he since deleted, so I'll share the quote of that in a second, but unfortunately not the full clip.
Bracket B is more stack, actually?
Yeah, I mean, like,
let's talk a little bit about
I think from our pracs too, honestly, I would say 100 Thieves and Sentinels are like some of the strongest teams we prac against. That's why I'm like really looking forward to these matches.
Yeah, hopefully. What about, so you would say they were the strongest, but these the other NA teams that maybe aren't as strong in scrims have been turned up in the matches, so hopefully it's not like we're good in scrims in the matches.
Yeah. Because like energy, it's hard to gauge because they try so much different things, like a lot of crazy different comps,
right?
In pracs. But like 100 Thieves have been like consistently good in our packs, and
just playing a win.
Sentinels a few times have been also really good. I think they just have like stacked rosters.
Yeah. I mean, NA is looking hot though so far. Like even EG, they look crazy.
Yeah, they look clearly ahead of Heretics.
So what do you guys think about those statements there on Sentinels and 100 Thieves? Because so far, North America is undefeated in Group A. And yes, they're playing competition which is lesser than the Fanatics, the Navis, the Liquids that are going to be down there, let's say, in Group Omega. But nonetheless, Sentinels and 100 Thieves, that, well, ShahZaM seems to believe are the two best teams in practice, have not even played yet, which is definitely making it look like North America is in a pretty good position right now in terms of Valorant success. But Evil Geniuses, despite their very strong start to the tournament, he reckons, ShahZaM, that EG are one of the weaker teams they played. Now, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter how you play in scrims if you play well in matches. But, you know, I think he deleted, I imagine he deleted this clip just because he, like, maybe he felt like he was a bit harsh on them or something and didn't want the clip to be public. So by the time I went to download it, it had been deleted. But this was the quote from the clip. I feel like EG is one of the weaker teams we played in practice compared to some of the other teams we play in challenges, if that makes sense. Like, I'd be pretty confident to say that the Guard FaZe M80 would finish above EG in the league, at least when practicing them. Impossible to say in matches. So interesting comments, right? The fact that he reckons that at least 3 teams, and maybe I'm guessing he's including himself in this, and G2 would actually are better than EG is basically what he's saying here. But this is what I mentioned the other day, that EG are considered kind of unanimously the worst North American team by most people, but they still played very well so far in this tournament, and of course they'll play today as well. We'll see how that turns out here in a second. But if EG are playing at that level, are they just significantly better in matches than they are in practice? That's possible. Or is it possible that actually EG are at a similar-ish level to a lot of the top tier 2 teams, and there's, well, it's incredibly stacked region, I think, is what kind of G2 ShahZaM is getting at here. Quickly though, on the Loud series as well, they played Karmine Corp last night. This to me was never going to be particularly close, to be honest, because Loud are a better team, and also Karmine Corp, they didn't really impress me the other day. They did go relatively close. Game 1 Pearl, eventually 13-10. Of course, they get the crowd buff as well now. The crowd was going mental last night, and Les manages to close out this 1v1 here with the Sheriff to take the 1-0 advantage. And then game 2 was over here on Ascent, and Karmine Corp gets sent home packing without too much difficulty for Loud in the end. The series was pretty close at times. I know that Zoms made a comment on stream that it was basically embarrassing what Karmine Corp were doing here, and on an individual level, like, okay, Scream XMS had really difficult series. Pearl 13-10, and honestly, game 2 was insane for, I mean, game 1 was insane for Les. Like, this guy is still ridiculous, there's no doubt. And lots to think about for Karmine Corp going going forwards, because actually Scream tweeted this out. The last few months have been difficult for me, can't hide it from you. Put all my energy into the prep, and that's what kept me going. Disappointed, sad to leave the competition this fast. I know how scary this team will be in the future. Really proud of my teammates. You can trust us for the rest competitively. I won't stop working until I've accomplished my goals and my dreams and lead Carmine Corp to the top. So we'll see if that works out. I'm kind of doubtful, but yeah, that team didn't really play at the level that I maybe expected them to this tournament, but they still won their first round match. They go down here, though, too loud. And even as Bodog mentions, right, at least in the alpha bracket, the only representatives from EMEA is artists, right, on the NRG side, which is kind of gross to think about, given, well, it's not exactly a massive surprise, given that most of the EMEA talent is stacked over there in Group Omega, and we'll see how that goes in the coming days. This, then, is the way the bracket is going so far. Looks incredibly ugly to see it like this, but we are going to have EG versus Talon today, and then Cloud9, DRX, another absolute banger. And that is the first matchup of today, DRX Cloud9. Like, look, if Cloud9 played the way that it did against PaperX, I think they can win this series. I'm expecting a map 3, though. Before the tournament here, if you'd have told me this was the bracket, I would have favored DRX, but the way they played the first series, I don't know. I'm going to say Cloud9 2-1, and then EG versus Talon. Talon are a great team as well. I don't really know how to call this one. I'm going to, okay, I don't know. I'm going for this North American copium. We're going EG 2-1, and we're taking all North America, or all Americas, through to the semi-finals. But hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you are new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.